Hello, people. I'm Jaby KOAY, joined by Achara KIRK.
What's up?
This is our discussion review for White Tiger. It is directed and written by Raman Barani, starring Priyanka Chopra, Rajkummar Rao, and Adarsh, Gourav, as well as a number of other people. It's based on a book by Aravind Adiga. We'll start this off with non-spoilers very briefly, and then we'll shift into spoilers, and we'll let you know loud and clear when we shift into spoilers. This is from IMDb, the one-liner, the epic journey of a poor Indian driver who must use his wit and cunning to break free from servitude to his rich masters and rise to the top of the heap. As you can probably imagine from the trailer, it is a very intense film.
Yeah.
It does not pull its punches. It hits you like right in the jugular, and it doesn't want to sugarcoat anything like a movie normally would. It's kind of coming at you, and you made this reference in the trailer reaction, I believe. It's kind of coming at you like Fight Club. It's very raw.
Yeah, it felt very visceral. I really enjoyed the story. For having not read it and just watching it, I thought it was very well done, really well acted.
Adarsh Gourav, his acting was phenomenal in this movie.
Amazing.
Yeah, because you really see him make that transition. The movie trailer doesn't hide that fact. You see it right from the get-go that he has a major transition in this film. And the way in which he executes that performance-wise is fantastic.
Yeah, so nuanced.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Rajkummar Rao and Priyanka Chopra do a fantastic job as well. Across the board, the acting in this film is great from everybody involved. I'm not going to go through and list off every single actor in the IMDb. I just want to say across the board, they chose very talented actors and actresses, and they all delivered A game, and it felt very real. This world felt lived in.
Yeah, and also I appreciated that, the characters kind of, like you said, they felt real. So the high class, the masters, like Rajkummar Rao and Priyanka Chopra, they had that look about them. And then Adarsh Gourav and everyone else who played like the people in the village or the other servants and stuff, I felt like they kind of had the authentic vibe, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciated that because it just kind of really draws you in.
As far as the camera work goes in this film, Raman Barani and his DP did a fantastic job with the way it was shot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There was maybe a couple of instances where I'm like, I don't know why you did that, but for the most part, I'd say 95% of the film, I found it very engaging. We shot a watch along. After the watch along was over, I commented saying I don't even know how much of a reaction it was because my eyes were so glued to the screen. I was just locked in with this movie.
Yeah.
And so much so that I forgot to blink a lot, I think. 'Cause it was just it's so intense, and it just moves at a clip. You kind of don't know where it's going to go next. You don't know how it's going to hit that transition point in his life.
Yeah, because it's coming.
Yeah.
Because it's that thing, that kind of fun storytelling thing where they kind of start at the climax.
Yeah.
And then they go, wait, hold on. Let me rewind and take you back to the beginning. So some hardcore stuff is going to happen, and it's that thing where he's narrating the story. We know that a big event is going to happen, but we just don't know exactly how he's going to pull it off.
It actually gave me, beyond Fight Club, it gave me a bit of a Hustle and Flow vibe, where you have this person who comes from extremely humble beginnings and just wants to make it and just wants to excel and rise beyond where he is currently at. In Hustle and Flow, he starts at a different place than our character in White Tiger does.
Yeah.
But still, nonetheless, everyone's trying to aspire to this next thing. Even the people at the upper echelon of society in this film are trying to aspire to something greater, namely Rajkummar Rao. Everyone's always trying to get to the next thing, and we just have our different ways of going about it. And the way the film analyzes the moral compass of everybody in this movie is so interesting.
Yeah, because I was feeling it towards the end of the movie because I'm like,
don't say too much.
I know he's the protagonist. Why am I cheering for him?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The music in this film I thought was very powerful.
I enjoyed it a lot.
I thought the just music design, whatever you want to call it, the score, the soundtrack, everything, I helped create a solid atmosphere. It all complemented the movie very, very well.
I was actually surprised that you liked some of the music, especially the hip hop, because I know that you're not always the biggest fan of hip hop, but I felt like it kind of contributed to that really raw, visceral
It was just part of the scene.
Feel. Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, it was just part of the scene. It's like those characters, the characters, Rajkummar Rao and Priyanka Chopra probably would listen to that, right? It was just, to me, it was just complimenting the scene. Writing-wise, music-wise, directing-wise, acting-wise, across the board, I thought that this was pretty solid. In terms of the story itself, I'm wrestling with it a little bit because of that moral compass, and it's one of those things that stays with you.
Yeah.
And it makes you think. It's not a movie you can just ignore. After you watch it, you're not gonna just forget about it. You're gonna hold on to that for a while. I was just reading about, and this is often in reference to like films usually. Funny enough, it's a game that's like a film, which is Last of Us 2. After I beat the game, I read up on, the director and what his feelings were about the game and everything like that. And he's like, the worst thing that could possibly happen is that your game is forgettable.
Right.
That people walk away from your game and they just never talk about it again. And so he made the choices that he did because he wanted the game to be remembered, and it will be. So likewise here, this is a film that I feel like stays with you. Whether you agree with it or not, whether the story resonates with you or not, I think it's going to stay with you, and it makes you think, and it makes you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so it's a very effective film at the very least. I still don't know how I actually feel about it is the thing, because I think it's one of those things that I have to sit with for a few days before I can actually give you this is how I feel. I can certainly say that it was well made and it was effective at what it wanted to do. It certainly got me thinking. I just don't know how I feel. So, how about you?
The whole moral compass thing, for sure, yes. I just had a thought, though, just after watching it and kind of reading the one-liner again, I was like, oh, you know what? I wonder if the whole story is a metaphor for how, India is rising globally. And I might be wrong. This might be me just making an absolutely silly connection. There was a lot mentioned in the movie, several times he's like, this is the time of the yellow and the brown man. We're gonna rise. Basically, that's the idea, right? And then I was like, maybe it is kind of like a metaphor for that because, India has been a country that has been colonized and that has been ruled, that has been pillaged by many different peoples throughout history. And now they're finally free from the shackles of their masters and are like, hold up.
Yeah.
We don't have to do all this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And we can be our own masters.
Yeah. And
you see that entrepreneurial spirit that Balram in the movie has, and that I feel like so many people in India have. It's full of people who are creative and who are entrepreneurs, but there are still those people that are very much locked in by the rules and by tradition and what you're supposed to do. So I feel like maybe that is
I'm sure there's some kind of element there of a greater message of the film. The fact that you were able to see that, it's not without merit is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I'm almost afraid to say it because I'm not Indian, and even though
you can make an observation.
Yeah, even though we watch a lot of the content and I feel very connected to India and its culture,
yeah.
I'm also very much aware that, I might not know what things are really like because I'm removed, because I'm in America.
Yeah, that's fair.
We're
going to move on to the spoiler section. So if you don't want any spoilers, head out of this review, go watch the film and come back. It's on Netflix. And if you want to watch it with us, there's the Patreon watch along of White Tiger. The very first thing we should talk about is how much of the film is spent him in the throes of this thing, of wrestling with this feeling of this dynamic of having the master step on his face basically throughout the story, right? And there's that moment where he signs the contract and he goes outside and he throws his shoes and he doesn't know what to do with himself. I really loved the way that was all shot and put together. I really appreciated the acting and the way he reserved himself, where he chose to explode at the lady in the street who was begging him for money.
Yeah.
All the little things, like when he was drinking in his bed with Rajkummar Rao and he notices the alcohol and he's just sort of following it because you see he's always calculating, right?
He's so good.
The way that was all put together was great. But it's the movie it spent so much time and almost felt like Pursuit of Happiness in a way, because it's but when he finally hit that point of victory, the movie was over. I'm like, what? No, it didn't really show me how it didn't spend a lot of time in building up this success story. It was more,
right.
it was just once he got the money, that was the end of, it almost felt like that was the end of the movie.
But I mean, that's probably like the biggest adventure of all. It's like, we all know he becomes successful. We know that from the beginning of the movie. It doesn't really matter how. It's more like, how did he get there? Because it seemed virtually impossible, especially when you watch from the beginning and you see like where he came from.
Where he had to beg for 300 rupees.
Yeah, like I felt so bad for him when the teacher was all like, I'm going to get you a scholarship. But then he couldn't go to school anymore because his dad couldn't afford to pay the fees.
Right.
And it's like, every step of the way, it's like he's
setbacks.
like cut away at the legs, Yeah. But he keeps on like just forging forward and using his smarts to kind of get to where he needs to be, even if it means like lying and cheating and blackmailing.
Right.
And murdering.
That's the greater thing that I was wrestling with in this movie, because he has to pull these moves in order to move ahead, but it's like that's how the system, for him anyway, was set up, where there's no other way to move ahead unless he does these moves. And I'm wrestling with that. I'm wrestling with that a lot, because it's like, okay, that really sucks, but does that make it okay? And does it make it okay that he murdered Rajkummar Rao to get the money? Furthermore, like let's set all that aside. Just looking at it from a logistical standpoint, how the hell does he get away with this? Because the person he murdered comes from a dangerous, wickedly powerful family. They wouldn't go after him with everything they've got. They wouldn't track him down and try to kill him, try to find him.
What do they know about him? All they know about him is who his family are, which village he's from. Like, he's smart. He goes away. He goes to Bangalore. Why would they think to search for him in Bangalore? Like, they're not privy to all the conversations he had with Ashok,
Sure.
So, and then he gets a new identity, and
he got a new identity with Ashok's name.
Sharma is a common name in India, and I'm sure there are like millions of Ashoks, so,
Right.
And he said so himself. He's like, I look like half the men in India look like me.
Sure.
He just blended in with the crowd.
That's the weird thing, though, is like he's talking to this important Chinese guy. Pictures are being taken left, right, and center. That's ending up on the news somewhere, right? Like people. So you'd think that they would see that. I don't know. It's a movie. At that point, it's like he's saying this is not a movie, but it is a movie because you're getting away with murder. Like, are you making it's a stretch. It's a big stretch that you're getting away with this.
Right, but he's saying that it's not like your typical Bollywood movie, because in your typical Bollywood movie, if the servant kills the master, according to what he said, then they're having nightmares about doing it. But he's like, no, the nightmare,
like Edgar Allan Poe, right?
Yeah, okay. The nightmare is dreaming that you didn't do it. That's his nightmare, and he's like, but here I am, and I'm the master now.
That was Edgar Allan Poe, right, with the heart and
the telltale heart.
Yeah. The dynamic in this film between Rajkummar Rao and Adarsh Gourav was fascinating to watch, because the trailer gives you a different sense. Like the scene in the car when he's watching Adarsh Gourav while he's making out with Priyanka Chopra, I got a different vibe from the trailer than I did in the movie. Yeah,
because in the trailer, it made it out like that Ashok, or Rajkummar Rao's character, was really pissed at
stepping on him.
Yeah, that he was like watching him. He's like, oh, why are you being a creepo?
Yeah.
But then in the movie, he's actually like, oh, Pinky, like, calm down.
Yeah.
We're being watched. It was interesting because the relationship was so different depending on who he was around. But I think it was just his character just was kind of torn, because he didn't know how to integrate these two different parts of him. Because on the one hand, he was like, no, I'm Indian, and he still felt very connected to India and very Indian at heart. But on the other hand, he had gone to New York, and he'd kind of started adopting a lot of these American ideals, and plus the influence of Pinky, Priyanka Chopra, his wife. It almost feels like he wants to live up to the ideals that America's offering him, but at the same time, like, the pull of his family and of his roots is still really strong. And so you see that when he's interacting with Balram, and he's all like, oh no, man, like, we're friends, and they drink together and they eat together and whatever. But like when his brother comes in, he's all like giving him attitude and acting like he's a master. And so it's like this weird dichotomy. It's like he doesn't know where he should be, and he certainly doesn't have the balls or the spine to stand up to his family.
That weird dynamic where it's like you're friends, but you're not friends.
Yeah.
and he still has this power over you, and then when he feels like it, he can just treat you like shit.
Yeah, or get you to sign a document. I mean, like Rajkummar Rao was really torn about that.
Right. But what I'm trying to get at is, real life experiences where I feel like that's so relatable for a lot of people, where, you're either dealing with the domineering asshole boss, or you're dealing with the one who pretends that he's your friend. And neither one of them are really good for you. You're just a cog in the machine. You're just this tool for them. And I've been there, and it fucking sucks. And everything he's going through in the movie, I'm like, I've experienced all this stuff where it's like that struggle of like getting 300 rupees just for to get a driver's license or whatever. Like I remember what that feeling is. I remember the feeling of like just trying to get ahead, and then seeing like someone when you're around rich people, it really messes with your head, especially knowing where you come from and like what you've got in the bank account, and how these people are just sort of talking casually about numbers you've never even heard of. It really screws with you, and I totally get how his character was feeling when he just saw gobs of money and he saw how they were living so lavishly, and he's just this lowly person.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like it's been so ingrained, that he can't touch the money.
Right.
Like he said in the beginning, like masters can just give their servants things to sell and know that they'll come back and just give them all the money, because it's been trained that, we must be good servants. That's like our role is to be that.
Yeah.
And then once in a lifetime the white tiger comes along. Like I loved that analogy, and I felt like Adarsh Gourav really incorporated elements of the tiger into his acting. There were definitely moments where he felt really docile, but once he started the plan and you could see him kind of like watching, and it felt like he was kind of a predator about to catch his prey.
That's what makes this film difficult to like, wrestle with, like in terms of a feeling. Moral compass again.
Yes.
The thing that messed with me was when he took the number one driver's job.
That was the thing that messed with you the most?
That was what messed with me, early on in the movie.
Yeah.
Because it sort of set the stage, the tone for what you were going to experience with this guy going forward in the movie.
Well, you know exactly who he is at that point.
Right.
He's ruthless. He's going to get it by hook or by crook. He's going to do it.
Right. Yeah, you talk, again, other references is like The Founder.
Yeah.
The McDonald's movie. Same kind of feeling.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because he's the protagonist, and like I felt kind of, well, not even kind of, just like very uncomfortable in that moment where first he was stabbing
Nightcrawler. That's another one. Nightcrawler. That's another Jake Gyllenhaal. His whole thing is about rising to the top, just like this guy.
Right. Yeah.
These are all films you should watch.
Okay.
You should watch The Founder. You should watch Nightcrawler. You should watch Fight Club. And what was the other one that we mentioned earlier? I don't know. Whatever I said earlier. You should watch all these references. Hustle and Flow.
That moment where he was stabbing Rajkummar Rao with the bottle, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, like you've got him. He's not gonna get up and find you. Like, you could just let him go, but he's gonna kill him. And then he slits his throat, and then I went, all right, get in the car and drive away. And then I kind of went,
it's like a match point
in my
scene.
head. I was like, wait, why am I rooting for this? He just murdered a dude, and I'm rooting for him to get away. Like I was just,
it's like match point.
I was feeling like all sorts of weird about that. I was like, oh, I don't know, but like they treated him so badly, and then in my mind I was going, oh no, but they tried to pin him for a murder which he didn't commit. Well, it wasn't murder, it was manslaughter, but still, like, someone died. I was like, okay, those guys aren't great either. And
no, but your main character usually is supposed to rise above is supposed to be better than the villains in the story. But in this particular case, he was worse than the villains in a way.
And he became what the villains were. But that's the dream, isn't it?
For him, that was the only way to get forward in life, was to become worse than the villains.
But then was he really? Because he treated his employees better.
Yeah. No, there's that. Sure, there's that angle. I'm just talking in reference to the people that he was working for.
Yeah, no, totally. I really enjoyed a lot of the cinematography in the movie, like you said, but I also just really liked their use of the extreme close-ups, because I thought that Adarsh Gourav was actually so good that when you were that close-up on him, he was really able to kind of convey all of the different emotions that he was feeling just through, his eyes, his eye movement, like how he was looking. And my favorite scene, I think my favorite acting part of his was actually in that bit where they got him to sign the document, and then
It was powerful.
and then he was like smiling, like, oh yes, I'm happy to do this, yes, my family's so proud of me, and he's smiling but he's crying at the same time.
Eyes, yeah.
I was just like, heartbroken.
That was really well done.
Really, really good.
Yeah. I like the way it's made. I like the way it's performed. I like the way it's produced. Altogether, it's done well. And it certainly has a strong message that it's putting out there. Whether or not you agree with it is up to you. I mean, there might be a lot of Indians who watch this and they're like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, it feels like Slumdog Millionaire all over again.
Yeah, I don't like the way that this is portraying India.
The country.
Like, I totally can understand that feeling and sentiment if that's how you feel. This is one perspective, and I think that it has every right to be spoken. Whether you agree with it or not is up to you. I appreciate it and respect it. So I'll have to get back to you about whether or not I actually like it. Because the thing about it is, like, can I watch this again? Like, I can watch The Founder again. I can watch Nightcrawler again, Hustle and Flow, all those movies that I mentioned. Fight Club. I can watch all those films again and again. I don't know if I'd want to revisit this just because of how it made me feel. It's like, oh, God, that's, like, gross.
Yeah.
What he had to do. And, like, that scene like you're talking about when he murdered him, I'm like, couldn't he just have run away, like knocked him out and ran with the money? Like, did he have to murder him? But the thing, that's what I was going to say. When Rajkummar Rao, the reason why it's okay that he murdered Rajkummar Rao is because Rajkummar Rao, his character, was effectively killing him. By replacing him in his job.
That's true, yeah.
You take away a man's job, you're taking away his life, is essentially what it feels like. Like, this is how he survives, and you're taking that away from him for when he's been nothing but loyal to you.
Yeah.
He earned himself death at that point. He just didn't realize it because he thought that he could just continue stepping on Balram's character.
But it's like they say in the movie, rich people who were born with privilege just don't understand the opportunities that they've been afforded. They can squander them, and they don't know that the things that they're doing might be a matter of life and death for the person that they're doing that thing to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully you guys got something out of that movie. Hopefully you guys got something out of this review. I am Jaby KOAY. This is
Achara KIRK.
Peace out.